Right, you ready? Someone's still awake as well?
As ready as I'll ever be.
You're still awake? I am somewhat already awake. Good stuff. Yeah. All right, let's see what we can do for you. So level 250, Dualblade. A real account session? I don't know what that means. It's not a gifted one?
I made a whole other album, but when I did all the pictures, they came out really tiny because I think just the default like way that it did my paint, it just I was able to fit like 5 or 6 things on one picture, and then it got into the album. I'm like, this is so tiny. He's gonna have to click through all of these. So I figured I'd just make them bigger so you don't have to click through them.
I appreciate that. It's the regular school project that has like real and then like very real, ultimate real, final. You have like 16 versions saved.
The edit, every step of the process.
Okay, I get it now. Makes sense. All right, cool. So what kind of stuff do you do in the game, like day to day? What are you trying to aim for? And I guess Shining Star Force is probably on your mind on the main thing, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a whole big spiel to go through. I just don't exactly know what maybe the best thing to use my money to tackle it would be, but I mean, I'm sure I could throw money at stuff, and if stars go up, then you know, I'm hitting harder. Exactly, of course. But day by day, I do for the past while, it's been super casual. It's just been like log on, maybe do like some like whatever event it is to like get the most benefits out of it, whether it be like capping coins or like maybe some weekly bosses here and there, but like it wasn't a big priority for me. It mostly was just like Ursus 2 times.
Just 2 Ursus, not 3?
No, sorry, double Ursus. Yeah.
Oh, right,
All 3 runs
yeah.
of double Ursus.
2x,
yeah. It'd be double Ursus, the the Maple News Network thing.
Yeah.
I try to do that. I try to do those like all the time, and then the like super casual if I feel like it is, like daily bosses, weekly bosses, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Does that mean that financially you don't have that much saved up? Like you don't have like hundreds of billions saved up, I guess?
Oh yeah, I do not. I definitely do not have hundreds of billions. I don't even have like 10 billion at this point. It's like 7.5 ish or something like that. Somewhere around there. I mean, I mostly just like how do you say? It's super casual, and like when burning happens, I'll just like make a new character and then kind of work on that. But aside from that, it's kind of just super cash.
And is that something? Okay, why do my emotes not autocomplete anymore in Twitch chat? Do you have this?
No, I have no idea. It's been working for me recently, but
like if I type it, it goes, but I can't use tab anymore. Fuck. Maybe my options changed somewhere.
Maybe it just might be Twitch being silly. Who knows?
I had to delete my cookies because my player wouldn't play. My Prime Video would never play, so I had to get rid of all of my fucking cookies and shit, and then it would work again. I always had to open like an incognito window, then go to Prime, then log in again every time manually because it's an incognito window to watch something. I was like, it's getting fucking annoying.
Oh man, yeah, that sounds like a big hurdle. Just
stupid walk
something
around.
Super simple.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks, Pekkarup, and the other dude whose name fell off somehow. Thank you for the subs. Can I see? Oh, here. I'm Imarinho. Thank you, guys. Yeah. So, do you feel like there is why did you start playing so casually? Do you feel like you were burnt out a little bit, or are you just not really feeling it that much, or doing some other stuff?
I wouldn't say it was burnt out. I think it's just kind of how I've been playing Maple for so long. It's just been like I have so much time on this game, just being like super casual and being more, I guess, the social part of MapleStory without the progression part of MapleStory.
Okay, sure.
Would be one part. The second part is like I am horrid at bossing. Like
Okay.
I am awful. And so the way that I like to boss is if I don't
Bind and
single
burst it.
cycle it with my it's
Okay.
it's off the list until I can.
Okay.
I'll sometimes like, how do you say? Sometimes I'll get into the mood to be like, okay, I kind of feel like I want to try to like get good at this boss or whatever have you, or like do a boss that I know I definitely should be able to, like Helix, right? But like I'll just like mess up somewhere, I'll get a little irritated, I'll mess up again, I get a little tilted, I'm like I don't need it, I can just leave it for another time.
I don't need this evil in my life. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
So sometimes you feel like choosing evil that day, and then you're like, okay, let's sit through this. Maybe I got lucky and I actually passed through it.
Yeah.
And then when you don't, you get
like,
triggered. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's just there's like some simple execution, but that's just mostly like bad habits. And then the other part is that I just don't really find grinding, just like grinding for like levels or like mesos really fun. I mean, if I were in a situation where
for very few people it's fun, right? Is it not fulfilling?
I suppose, but I feel like for others they're like really probably super focused on like maybe like the steps of progression. I feel like when I was on the come up from like starting this character and I was like still in Pencilier, I had like very clear like steps in my head of like how I can progress very easily, because I had my friends that I was playing with, and now that they've outpaced me because they're much more, they're way past me.
Way progress driven
by leaps and bounds. Yeah, they just definitely outpaced me, and I'm just like, I'm kind of just cruising, and so like I don't see them as much, and so I don't reach out as much about like where my next steps are, because like I could probably get some like arcane stuff at this point, but like I don't know what I should be grabbing first. When do I like actually switch out the Absolab, the CRA, the all this whatnot?
Yeah, the details for it can be very account related.
Yeah.
So what is the stuff that you do clear up until now? Like, what is the stuff where you're like, I can go in and nuke it and not ruin my day?
Let's see. Everything that's like on the tier of, what was it? It was like on the Maple Guide thing. It was like I think it was like Chaos, Papulatus, and like on that same tier and below.
It's like Akechi, CPAP, and everything lower than that, basically?
Yeah, pretty much. I can just blow that up, pretty much.
And so regular Lotus and Damien is not in your rotation?
No, but I did actually really recently did some runs on them, and I figured out that I'm much more easily able to do Damien compared to Lotus, as I feel like the majority of people usually find that, I guess, just because more lives, I guess, but like...
Yeah, it's definitely practice, but it's also about how quickly you can get out of the laser phase without literally like ruining all of your burst and feeling like you're like a sitting duck in phase 2 to wait for your stuff to come back. But I guess you do have the benefit that you have pretty short cooldown 5th jobs, so you can throw those out. But yeah, once you're in phase 1 too long and then the laser starts speeding up and everything, that can get very annoying really quickly.
Oh yeah, definitely. Agreed.
And do you have access to guild skills? Because those can be huge in terms of what you can do and what you can't do.
I just recently switched from my guild that I had been sitting in for so long because they were super like casual, but like also kind of dead, if that makes sense.
Those things tend to go hand in hand. It's very hard to have a guild that's like, oh, we're very, you can do whatever you want and also be competitive in any way. We're trying to find a middle ground with my guild, and it's pretty rough because you want to be able to nurture the people who want to perform, because otherwise what happens is you get influx of new people, and then every time people actually want to start achieving stuff, and then they leave again. and
Makes sense.
that makes that you can never like elevate where your guild is at, which you know you don't necessarily have to. You can be like a mid-tier guild, and then that's your purpose. But if you have some higher level people as well, and you want to hang on to them, you have to kind of move up as well in some requirements. But the way we usually do it is like we don't really have hard requirements that you have to do like the culvert and the flag race. But if you don't, then yeah, and we you know, and we don't perform too well with the guild skills as a result, then you know you just lose your guild skill privileges. And then you know if you just participate again, you can just get them back. And we found that works pretty well. It's enough motivation for people who care enough about the skills to do it, and people who don't care enough about the skills not to do it. And as long as we keep track that we don't have like screens and screens of people who are just kind of like sitting in there but don't really actively participate, then we're fine.
Oh yeah.
And now you can actually see how long people haven't logged in and all of that, so it also makes it easier to kind of filter on who is just literally not playing right now versus who is just not logging in for a day or two. So those extra tools have helped quite a bit.
Understandable. Yeah, I can definitely help fish that out.
If you have a big guild with like 180 members or something, and you have a new member, and every time they log in, there's only like 2 or 3 people online, that's not good. But yeah, there's definitely a very strong thing when people who join guilds, they want to be in guilds where a lot of stuff is already done, and they can just tag along if they want to. And most people don't want to be the ones who have to organize anything. And that kind of set me off in the beginning, because people just want to be in there and they just want everything to be done already. And they don't want to be the ones who have to put in the work to do things. So I don't know what your new guild is like. Do you feel like you're getting more out of it?
Oh, no. I how do you say? They advertised on the, what is that?
The Reddit or Smackdown?
No, the,
Reboot Central?
The MapleStory. No, just the MapleStory.
Oh, okay.
Discord, yeah, they advertised on there, and it looked promising because I could tell that they're like, from the post that I saw and then the previous ones from like days or maybe like however many days ago, that they're like growing, and I'm like, I'm down with this. My guild's dead. This one, it seems like it's alive and it's growing.
Yeah.
I don't mind helping them, being part of that process, and it would, you know, could be the right step for me to take to maybe just hop into this game and be maybe a little bit more than casual at this point. And yeah, it's been fun. They've been very, very welcoming, and they have a lot of resources in the guild Discord. Yeah, it's they're really friendly people. It's been a great time, actually, for like even the short amount of time that I've been in here, for like honestly a few days. It's been fun.
Okay.
Looking forward to more.
So that continues. And do they have access to the guild skills?
Yeah. They're still trying to like level up the stuff, and you know, just trying to get people to like daily cap, you know, or like a culvert or like a flag race here and there or whatever have you. You know, just trying to like get that ball going, and then people, you know, the people have actually been pretty consistent about it, at least the past few days that I've been observing. So you know,
the build up to
I can't complain.
The build up to like 30 skill points should be very fast. And then 30 to like, I think to like 40 or like up to 42, I think, skill points is also not too bad, as long as you have like, if you have like 20 to 30 people who really play the game and do those things, you can get up to like 40 skill points like pretty reasonably. You don't even need like 200 people really. But if you want to go past that, that's when basically what you need to do is need to get out of like the top. You need to get like into the top 10% of culvert. And if you want to go beyond that, you need to go into the top 5% of culvert, which are like huge gaps. And that's when it gets really, really tough. You have to be like top 40 guild in culvert or something. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But until that point, you know, you can get your 10 from your weekly stuff. 10 from flag is usually more doable on some of the weeks where the flag race is, like more easy, because there's 3 different flags, right? And it's good to have some people who are good at all of the different flags so that they run. But I thought, usually what I tell the people in the guild is like, if you're running your weekly bosses on a day, if you try to do culvert like right before or right after that, that helps you, because then you already have everything set to do max boss damage, right? So if you just take an extra 2 minutes then to do the culvert, then you can do 2 birds in 1 stone kind of thing. And then it's done for the week, and try to not, leave it until Saturday or Sunday to do it. which, you know, I end up doing that, of course, all the time. But because I've got 6 characters in the guild now that I'm trying to do everything with, so it's a little much for me. But
sure, trying to keep track of all 6 at the same
yeah,
time. Right?
yeah, trying to do weeklies on all of them for the income, but also trying to find a flag. And the flag time restriction is also very annoying, because I'll be like, someone will be like, oh, it's flag, and I'm like, okay, checking in the list which character of mine can do flag. And by the time I CC'd and gone onto the character, sometimes I've already missed the flag again, and you have to wait another hour before you can go in. It's kind of stupid system, but yeah, because you need points, right? You need one of those weekly points to be able to go into flag, and then you need to go at the right time as well. So it's a little too restrictive in my opinion. But yeah, once you guys get access to better guild skills, I mean, even for Lotus and Damon, it shouldn't even be necessary anymore. But if you do want to do the runs, you want to do them faster, and you want to make sure, you know, that you have a more guaranteed way of just blowing them up, then that'll help you out as well. Because I mean, typically, what I tend to do is, and I guess with your stats, you could, you know, I don't know about mechanically, but you should be able to, with like this damage, I believe, just go into like normal slime. If you have like have our guild skills and you push some extra like half-hour buffs and stuff, and then just probably kill a slime in with 1 test, maybe with 2 tests, you know, depending on how it goes. So it should be like a 7-ish minute run or something like that, either like 5 or 7 minutes. And then usually like I pop like a drop coupon just to increase the drop of all the bosses that I'm about to do, and then basically cycle through all those bosses that you mentioned and get like Lotus Damien and get all those other ones done before the half-hour coupon expires.
That's smart. That's smart.
And then you can get everything done, because the slimes tends to be the longest boss, right? So that you can, so usually I pop the coupon only right before I open the box. So because then if you do like leave a few of the weaker bosses last, then you don't really need the boss skill, the guild skills for that anymore. But then you still have the drop coupon running for those extra 5, 6, 7 minutes that however long the slime run lasted, and you can still get the benefit from the drops there.
I understand.
So then you can have maybe like a 36 or 37 minute, you know, cycle, but then you have all the necessary buffs on. Yeah, I mean, we should just. I don't know if they were on or off. Thank you, Kaka. Yeah. So what do you find? Have you tried to kind of like get to the bottom of why do you feel like you have trouble with the bosses?
I feel like I feel like most of the time it's just me being stubborn that I don't really want to learn. I've gone through all the way up to like recently now where it's like if I can't burst it, I'm not gonna bother with it. And like I just feel like I don't know, maybe if I just learn some like more mechanics, or like if I feel like if I just like actually started caring more and just practiced more of the mechanics, I think I could actually just be like soloing more, or just doing more and just being richer and be able to just like fund myself faster and progress at a faster pace or whatever have you. Or like I don't really look too much into like, because I know some people will like be like it's very useful that you have dark sight. I don't know everything that I can dark sight to be honest. I know that like I think, what is it, like Lotus, like 2nd and 3rd phase, dark sight's really nice, but like I think aside from that, I'm not all quite up to spec on what exactly is useful for me here and there.
Let's see, what can you dark sight? You can dark sight the rifts in CPAP on the ground. The big blue,
the ones that
big blue spiral
the ones
things.
that, like pop. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you could just stand at that in dark sight because you know that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You can dark sight the and you also have your what's it called? The owl tornado thing.
Yeah, that's like some like, is that actual iframe or not iframes? Like,
I don't know, but it does like weird things. I know like bombs and will can just fizzle if you use that.
Really?
And I believe there's some other things where you can use it, where it just doesn't kill you. But like another Dualblade who's done like more boss fights, who can probably tell you specifically. My Dualblade's never gotten that far, but I couldn't. I don't know. Damien's. Some bombs that drop. Yeah, but like everything that drops from the ceiling, basically, you can dark side. So like H-Mag, all of those balls. Yeah, all of the obstacles, like you said, and the yeah, like in Damien, the fireballs and stuff that fall from the sky when he's in the air, dropping them. You can just jump through those with dark side. That's all. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of stuff is very safe with that. So much so that you might, you can save your iframe for the really, really sticky situations. But a lot of it, yeah, a lot of it will come down to practice. The good thing is that we have practice mode, and you can go in if you want to. And as long as you have one buff freezer, you can just save your buff freezer, and it doesn't consume it when you're in practice mode.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, yeah, so as long as you just buy one, you can click, like, use buff freezer, but if you're in practice mode, it doesn't consume it. So you can just keep going. You can do a whole, like, 10 death run with just one buff freezer and keep all your buffs.
Very interesting. Very interesting. My new Discord, or my new guild, has a Discord server with lots of resources that I have yet to dig fully through, but I'm sure that I could probably find something along the lines of what I'm asking for. I think it's just a lack of having the resources there, but I guess now that I'm maybe in a spot where I can be more knowledgeable, I can maybe get myself into a more casual thing. And also, I had less time for MapleStory due to other things, but now that things are changing in where I am right now, I could probably shift more time into MapleStory. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think it's something that you weren't doing because of the time restriction, or is it just something that you're not very interested in trying the boss fights a lot?
I wanna say it was a combination of both, but not
sure, like a priority thing.
Super heavy. Yeah.
Okay, someone put in a chat from the Dualblade Discord. It blocks falling debris, poison gas, and Magnus as well. Okay. Queen Fire will not do. Yeah, the Queen Fire DOT. But yeah, CRA should be so fast now that shouldn't be an issue anyway. Gollux bombs. Oh yeah, when you get like the reversal bomb.
Really?
If you go into dark side, that just doesn't do any damage apparently, because that makes sense. Crack floor and Pap. Yeah, the rifts. Time will not be applied in Pap. Yeah, rift and Pap. Wait, time will not be applied in Papulatus? Oh, you don't get the timer over your head either? Damn. Full map attack that petrifies getting left-righted. In Damien? Oh, okay. Damien part 2, where he sometimes knocks you away and then you have to tap left and right very quickly. I guess if you are in dark side before that just doesn't hit you. Webs in part 2 in Will. Yeah, there's like webs on the beneath the ground where everyone else just gets one shot basically, and you with dark side you can just walk through that.
Oh really? Is that like I have yet to run Will at all, so that would be. I did like there was like a little thing that I could click in my guild Discord that like I could like read this, like it looks like this like Bible of like how to just beat Will and his descendants or whatever have you. I'm like, that's so much.
Yeah, and it's one thing to read and to kind of be aware of some things, and it's another thing to really just go in there and see what you actually need to do, because you can read all the guides and watch all the people clear a boss fight as much as you want, but unless you physically go in there and die like a bunch of times to dumb shit and just figure out how to dodge instead, yeah, you don't really get very far. Like for Black Mage, you have to do a lot of reading because it's like all the mechanics of all the bosses in the game like thrown into one boss, but you still have to figure out like, how do I personally deal with this? How do I get around, But knowing the priorities of what to dodge is important, but then past that, like, yeah, it comes down to mechanical skill, and a lot of that comes down to practice. Because when I do CRA with the low-level bosses and with low-level characters and with low funding, people be like, how is he able to do that? And it's like, they try to see, like, maybe his Legion is just really big and Legion just hard carries, or maybe it's this or maybe it's that. But a lot of it is, people are like, you make the boss fight look easy. It's like, well, because I've killed them like a few thousand times at this point. Like, I know how the bosses are going to move. I know where I can still get caught off guard sometimes, but when I get surprised, the amount of times I get surprised is like an exception. It's not the rule, right? And if you're doing your bosses for the first few times, every single thing the boss does is a surprise because you don't know what's going on. Yeah. And like, I was playing a little bit of League like 2 days ago. Like, I don't know any of the champions, so I don't know what they do. So I don't know how to defend myself against it. So I get caught off guard by everything, right? Because I don't know what to expect.
Understandable, yeah.
But if I would know all the champions, all the kits, and have played them, I don't know their limitations, and then I would know what my limitations should be, right? And boss fights is pretty much the same. And then the extra dimension is playing it with different characters and then learning to engage how those different characters go. But if you really focus on one character, after a while you'll be able to just predict when the attacks are coming. Not because you're like counting 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi in your head, but you just kind of get a feel for, oh, this is, and sometimes with sounds on and stuff can help. Because there are some audio cues in the game. I don't know if you play with sound on.
Oh no, I do not.
And do you play with were your transparency settings pretty high? Not that it matters too much because
I want to say for other people, it's as transparent as it can be. And for mine, it's almost like max. I think if I remember off the top of my head, I don't quite remember.
Yeah. Because in the beginning it might make sense to kind of have your skills visible to make sure that you get your hitboxes right, to make sure that you're hitting and that you know your positioning versus the boss. And then as you get more and more experienced, turn it down more and more. Because of course there's a lot of stuff the boss can be doing that you can't see coming, right, if you're throwing out attacks. But I believe even at the max transparency setting, if you throw out your tornado, everything is just red anyway. And it's kind of blocked.
Yeah, probably.
What might help, especially with some bosses like CPAP, but maybe later bosses, is if you change your damage to blade damage, so that all of the lines appear on one line, and that way the whole map isn't full of numbers, and you might also see things coming a little bit sooner. That might help. Yeah.
I could also just get the transparent damage skin somehow.
Yeah, but that again, I would only apply that once you feel more comfortable with like your hitboxes and when you're attacking and everything. Otherwise, you could just be hitting air for a while and not even know it.
True, very true.
That could be a thing, but yeah, that is definitely a possibility. And also heard that at least in the past, I don't know if it's still the case, that it would also reduce people's lag quite a bit, because it has to render no numbers. So that's kind of nice.
Makes sense.
Yes, but yeah, I don't want to like force you to start spending 2 hours a day in the hyperbolic boss training chamber, if that's not something that you're comfortable with or want to do. Another thing is just, one thing is knowing that you can solo a boss, and the other thing is like actively choosing to do it. Because once you have more access to a guild, you could also be like, hey, does someone want to like duo this boss real quick? Maybe someone is a lower level and that you're basically carrying them, but just there being another person there might just make it easier. But for some bosses, solo is easier in a way. Like for Lotus, for example, I find solo to be easier because you can, once you get more competent, because you can 100% control where the boss is going to be. Like it teleports, you know where it's going. It's going to be attacking, you know exactly who it's attacking and when it's going to attack. The more people, and like platforms, you know that if you get hit by one of those dumb platforms and die because you can't stand on top of it for the laser, then you know that you fucked up.
True.
But the more people you have, there's certain obstacles that actually become more scary the more people are in the map, and then you have to really actively choose to do that. Especially now also with the boss crystal value going up, right? Soloing is definitely going to be lucrative. Just Lotus and Damien, if you can start doing those just like on a regular basis weekly, that is a very nice income. I think it's like 300 mil between the two of them.
Yeah. When I heard about that, I was starting to consider bossing a little bit more, but I just put it on the back burner.
Yeah, still not enough motivation.
Yeah, due time, hopefully.
Yeah, it does. I think you can play Maple pretty casually and just slowly progress, but you basically get to the point where you're now, where like everything is like 17 star safeguarded and 2 or 3 line like legendary potential, right? And then it's like, and then you're like hard stuck, because now the thing you needed or had needed to go past this point, you should have already been working on that for like the last 6 months or the last year, or right, to get like backups and things. And if you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have backups, you can't really put that money to work for you.
Yeah.
And the game does a really good job in making you feel like you should be doing more because it gives you access to so many things and then it makes you feel bad that you're not capitalizing on that, right? Like with the bosses.
Yeah.
Because you know you could be doing it. So I don't want to like force you to fall into that trap and be like, you have to do these bosses. Because if you really don't want to do it, like that's totally fine. You can do your thing. But it depends on what your goal is and what you really want to achieve. Based on that, I will say like some things are just going to be highly valuable to do and to get better at. And other things won't be as important and you can probably just, you know, leave those be.
Yeah, that's understandable. I've always been as you've already heard, I've kind of just been like slow paced, but like I've been not about how fast I get there, but as long as I'm like you know, still trotting along the way. But I feel like I think with where I'm trying to go now, maybe I don't mind being at like slower than a snail's pace of like trying to progress, and maybe I might consider like trying to do like some more bosses so I can be more funded, so I can pace maybe a little bit faster than a snail's pace maybe. Or like I could consider, I guess, having like multiple boss mules, because like aside from my 250 Dualblade, it's not looking too hot.
Yeah.
Unless I really get better at practicing like the bosses and the mechanics there, because like I did not touch or learn much of like CRA until I could just like burst it with my Dualblade. Same thing with like everything else.
Yeah,
basically.
well, and that makes it harder for the new characters to get to the point where they can kill because they don't have that damage to put up, right?
Very true. Very
so
true.
you'll just have to eventually still learn the boss, but now with a weaker character than your main character.
Yeah, very true.
Well, I would probably like to scale up on the Blade Master first because you're probably more skilled with it. It has access to more damage, and I think with the right practice and, you know, the right tweaking maybe here and there based on the session, you should get enough damage to get those bosses done easily, and it'll just be per time just make more sense. But like a character like a 219 Arc or maybe the Bowmaster should be able to, you know, with the right proper training and all that, and your Legion is almost 8k, so that's huge. Should probably be able to just do CRA pretty quickly in like probably like 10 to 15 minutes, and even that would be like I don't know how much is that now. Is that like 250 mil a week as like an extra little side cash, right? That you could make if you have some time in the week somewhere to do it. Again, if you have access to guild skills and stuff like that, that can be augmented like a lot. I mentioned the guild skills because even if you just have like 2 maxed out guild skills, I think it's like the equivalent of 4 to 5k stat probably. That you're just getting in terms of raw damage output for like half an hour, and then you can just destroy the bosses. And it makes it so that the amount of initial investment you have to make in characters to achieve those goals is severely lower for a, I think, a relatively good trade-off. You know, like 2, you know, maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes. I don't know how much your prep is for Culvert in a week, and then like 1 flag race. That's like, you know, maybe like 10 minutes. So you're spending like 15 minutes a week, but you're getting a whole lot back for that.
Yeah.
Definitely something not to underestimate.
Something I should consider for sure, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes guilds, what they'll do, especially if you have members a little bit higher up who have bossing mules, maybe have like a bossing mule guild or just a regular mule guild as well in like the same alliance that you can just like throw your characters into. And then the difficult part becomes if you're like trying to do like flag and culvert as well and like the mule guild as well, then it's the scaling up there starts getting a little bit tricky. But if you're not if you haven't reached like 200 members yet, in the beginning you can just have your mules probably in the same guild, but then, you know, with the caveat that you want to make sure that you don't have that only like 1 in 8 members can be online at a time, because everyone has 8 characters in the guild, right? Because then you can only have even in 200 member guild, you can only have like 25 people online at the same time, which is you know, a good number, but that's only if every single person is online. But that could be something to discuss with the guild or to see what kind of direction they're taking with that.
True, very true.
Okay, so you mentioned where you want to go. Is it like up into like 260, doing like Lucid and Will, maybe hard Lucid, hard Will? Is that where you want to go because of arcane stuff?
You know, I never really, when I started this, I never really picked like a boss or a spot to like stop at. So,
yeah, sure. Not like ultimate goal, but like the next thing, right? Because you mentioned
Yeah,
stuff
I
you want
think
to
the
go.
next step. I think the next step would be like, I don't know, getting like more normally into like just like Lucid and like Will, and just like starting to obtain the droplets to get the currencies, to get the like arcanes at that point. I think that's the next logical step. I think mostly what was stopping me there though was like trying to find those parties, you know. I'm not always on MapleStory, so I'm not always see the most opportunistic, I guess, or like have the opportunity to see those megas where they're like requesting like, you know, some random schmuck off of the reboot
off the
server
street,
to fill in their party. Yeah.
Well, hopefully with the
like,
guild that can be better, right?
Discords.
You maybe have some people in the guild who are in a similar position are trying to do the bosses, and they might be lower level if they're just starting out. But then you can be, I don't know, that can give you a little bit of a boost. Like, oh, people are kind of like, you know, depending on me for my damage, maybe a bit more. So I give you maybe some, and they won't be people who are like surpassing you the next day, like your friends did. Which, you know, as much as we try to be above it and try to be like we're just doing everything at our own pace, it does kind of suck if you have friends that you're trying to play with, but you just, you can't do anything together, or if you do, they're just like smoking you.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, they're like in their late 260s and their 270s, like.
Yeah, they're all the way up there, out there doing like hard parties, and I haven't even seen a hard anything.
Okay. Well, hopefully we're still talking just about boss fights.
Yeah, true. I should probably say that. Yeah.
Caveat.
Yeah, boss fights.
Yeah. No ED here. Okay, so what are some questions, major questions, like grand topics that you had where you feel like you need a little bit more knowledge on, a little bit more insight on, so you can basically feel safe that you know enough about it to not worry about the topic, basically?
The thing, hold on, I have notes here.
Yeah.
I prepped.
Go to the notes.
Even though I might be super sleepy, I got these notes prepped so I don't forget anything.
Probably because you know you were sleepy, so thank you past you for giving you a skeleton for the conversation. Yeah.
Thank goodness. Yeah, man. Dualbladers have a lot of built-in IED, and I know you have that calculator.
Yep.
I still just don't fully understand how to use that thing, or like, so if you could either A, really show me how to use it, or B, just like calculate what was the term you're using, functional IED is, because I have, you know, there's that like number up there in my stats, obviously, but as you were saying, there's functional and all that stuff that doesn't consider everything, right? Because I have built-in stuff on, you know, like I have built-in on like 3 of them, where 2 of them are 100%.
Yep,
and
exactly.
Like, I don't even know if that's like that means like I don't even need IED for that skills at all, or if it's like multiplicative, you know, additive, or whatever the terms are.
Yeah. So the sources are the sources are multiplicative, all of them. They can be additive within a source. So in the case of, let's say, like filling in like the numbers in your Legion grid, those get additive right into one clump, and then that gets added as a multiplicative source. Same thing with like your hyperstats. It's not like every level is 3%, but it's not 10 times 3% if you have level 10. It's 1 time 30%, because if you hover over the stat, you see it's now a 30% clump, right? So those two are like additive within, but in general they are multiplicative. And the visual representation I always use is you have you standing on one side and a boss is standing on the other side. And the distance between you is basically how much PDR the boss has, right? Physical damage reduction. And with every source of IED you add, you get the whatever the percentages of the source, that's the percentage of the distance you cover that's remaining between you and the boss, basically. So let's say you're doing a Lotus or Damien. They have 300% PDR, so you're 300 away from each other. So if you would get to add, so let's say you have, let's get rid of all of these sources, right? So let's say you would add a IED, let's just say like your fucking hyperstats, right?
Okay.
That's 30%. So now you're like 0% distance close, right? You're just still 300% PDR away, which means your damage gets reduced by 300% when you attack the boss, which means you do absolutely nothing. You just hit once. That's the lowest number you can hit.
Mm-hmm.
So if you add the hyperstats, 30% now of the distance is covered. So 30% of the 300 will now be gone. So there's only 70% left of the distance between you, 70% of the 300, so 210 is now left.
Okay.
So you're still getting 210% damage reduction on that boss. So you're still hitting absolutely nothing, but you've gotten closer, right? Now if you if you have something else, let's say maybe your emblem or something has a 30% line, right? Now, since the distance from 300 went down to 270, to 210, now if you add a new source, you're still getting 30% of the distance, but the distance went down to 210. So you're still getting 30% of that, but it's always 30% of whatever's left. So now you have 30% of 210 went down, which is 3 times 21, which is 63. So you're left with 210 minus 63. So like with 147, is it? Whatever. So like your IED goes down, and you visually will go up to 51% then. So it's not 30 plus 30 going up to 60, right? Because otherwise it'd be really easy to get to 90, right? Just 3 sources of 30, boom, you're done.
Yeah, true.
But you have those diminishing returns because it's always the percentage of however much is left. So an easy example would be like if you see visually that you have 80% and you were going to add a line of 20%, you know you're going to get to 84% because you're missing 20. You take 20% of the missing 20, which is 4%, right? 20% of 20%. So you go from 80 to 84.
Yeah.
So that's how you can already know like how impactful is a line going to be. And going from 80 to 84, if you know the PDR of the boss, so the boss is 300% PDR, that means blocking 80% means blocking 240% of the 300, so you're left with 60%. So you're only doing 40% of your final damage in situation 1, versus if you have 84 reduction, that means that 16%, right, is being getting through 3 times, which is 48. So you're going to 52% of your final damage. But so that means that one line of 20% IED, which doesn't seem like to do a whole lot, makes you go from dealing 40% of your final damage to dealing 52% of your final damage. And, you know, multiplicatively from 40 to 52 is almost a third, right? So you're almost adding a third of your final damage just for one line of 20%. So that's why you can see how important IED is, but also how important it is to know that you're using your actual functional number of how much you're doing. Because if you don't calculate that in, every single calculator will say, like, you have to maximize your IED, right? You have to put your hyperstats on 15. You have to roll every single WSE for IED because your so much of your damage is not getting through. And if your damage is not getting through at all, then all of your upgrades that you make in terms of attack and damage and stat and all of that is not getting efficiently applied, which means that you're wasting your money basically on those upgrades because your IED isn't high enough. So all of the calculators will get like completely out of whack if you're not applying your functional IED and you're only applying your visual. For some classes, those numbers are almost exactly the same. Like the only extra will be like boost nodes and maybe the Explorer Mage Link skill, right? And then other than that, there's nothing extra going on. So they can basically go off of their visual and compare that with the progression grid, right? But for you, there is extra. So since you have on any kind of important skill at least 30% built in, you can basically just add a 30% line. So what the idea is that you try to recalculate your visual IED that you see in your stat window with all the sources, which is a bit easier now because if you hover over IED, it shows where all the IED is coming from, right? So it can give you kind of like a checklist to make sure that you've incorporated all of those. So you kind of want to know where all of those are coming from. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you check the IED as well, the IED command, there's a little list where you can check to make sure that you're going past all of these things, to make sure that you've ticked all those boxes, and then you can double check hovering over the IED in your stat window to see that you've done all of them, and then you should be able to recalculate this number. Like this number should be able to come out right here.
Okay.
So I don't know how much it ends up being, like 2020. I don't know, something close to that. And then from there on out, you can be like passives or something or whatever you want to call it and add like another 30%. And then you'll see that this is what you're like functionally at. And then that's the number you want to compare to the progression grid. And then you, specifically as a dual blade, can even be a little bit on the lower side because a lot of your damage, and that's an important part, a lot of your damage comes from those 2 skills that have 100% IED. Is it 2 or 3 even? It's like your Tornado, your Burst skill. Is it also Blades of Destiny? No, Blades of Destiny has 30, right?
I think it is Blades of Destiny and the Tornado that I have in my head. I don't think I have a third one that's 100. I don't believe, unless it's like one that I wouldn't really use for like the damage, like maybe Final Cut, because I'm pretty sure dual blades use Final Cut for the iframes. No, not like like the damage buff as well. Not like the actual damage that it does.
Yes and no. Yeah. This has 30. Yeah, Blades of Destiny has 30. I think it's the other skill, the one where you with the slightly higher cooldown, like the 90-second cooldown. I think that one is 100%.
Tempest.
Yeah, Tempest. Yeah, I think Tempest and Tornado have 100, and then Blades of Destiny has 30, and then Tempest has 30. Can go even higher with the hyper skill if you want to. If you want to get fancy. But people tend to not do that because, you want to make sure that your IED is not completely out of whack for one skill versus another one. Very similar to crit rate, right? We almost never take hyper stats for crit rate for an individual skill because it's just such a waste, because you need to make everything have 100% crit anyway. So those are always wasted. Like very, very early on, they might be nice if your characters and your account is completely unfunded. But other than that, you'd never take him. Oh, Asura is 100%. Oh, that's the one. Wait, and is it the burst as well? Tiny Baguette? The Tornado and Asura is 100%, and is Tempest also 100%? Or is Tempest a 30%?
Maybe Tempest is another 30. I could have sworn when I was viewing this at some point, I only remembered 2 skills being 100%.
Yeah, I'm not sure about 3 either. Might be 2. Blade Tempest. Sorry, I misspelled the fuck out of that. Oh yeah. This is 100%. Yeah, and then Asura. Is it Asura's Anger?
I believe so. Yeah.
This is a skill. Let's see how they code this. Is it like this? No, it's not. Okay. These numbers might be a little bit out of whack too, though, because they haven't updated this in a while.
Okay.
Dual blade skills. Asura's Anger. Oh, Asura percentage 27. I should have seen that coming. Yeah, that's also, so there's 3 skills. Yeah, Tempest, Asura's Anger, and the Tornado are 100%. So since you have so much additional there, you can definitely be a bit on the lower side without feeling bad. Like if the target in the progression grid is like 93 or 95, and you're at like 91 or 93, like a few percent below, you're probably fine, right? Because now you know that at 90%, if you add 20%, you go from 90 to 92, and these things have 100%. So to go back to the example with the distance between the boss, right? Every individual source is the percentage of however much is left, and those things are multiplicative with each other. That means if you have 100% source, it doesn't matter how many other sources you have. You're covering 100% of whatever distance is left. So if it's the very first source, you're immediately done. You've immediately ignored all of the PDR. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I think what I was most worried about is where like the like me trying to work on IED becomes kind of like I guess the term I would use would be like negligible gains, where it's like I might be putting too much into IED where I could have been putting it into something else, and I'd be getting, the higher number coming out better because I invested the, whatever resource I used into this stat instead of IED or whatever have you, final damage or stat percent, whatever have you.
Yeah, no, that is something that you're constantly, trying to wrestle with as you keep going. The main difference is what you can always try, of course, is to move, because I don't know how much total damage you're at with boss 286. One of the things you could change is just do the different legion setup, right, and move like all of the boss damage into IED instead. and then do a boss again and just see how different it is. So the main thing is, like, let's say that you do a BA, in your BA, right, your battle analysis, let's say that like 90% of your damage, you know, just huge exaggeration, is coming from those 3 skills, from your Tornado, from Asura, and from Tempest. Well, now getting a whole lot more IED is not going to be that efficient because it doesn't apply to those skills. Those skills already have 100%, right? So you can only apply to that 10% that you're left. And if you apply that 10% that you're left and you increase that by, like, I don't know, by 20%, well, now your total damage is only going to go up by, like, well, roughly by 2%, right? So it's not as impactful. But let's say that those 3 skills, they do a lot, but they only do like 20% of your damage. And you have 80% of your damage left that can be applied to final damage. And you can get, you know, 2% final damage over that. Well, now you're getting 8% total final damage. Now it might be worth it to switch. So there could be a lot of moving parts, and it can be difficult to tell. The main thing is probably going to be wherever you have the lowest opportunity cost, right, to switch to IED. So somebody asked for this recently. I did this, I think, yesterday or the day before. So I ordered these sources also by opportunity cost. Are you familiar with that concept?
No idea.
Basically, an opportunity cost is like, let's say that you have $5 and there's 2 things that you want to buy. Sometimes it might be better to split your money or to because of the other thing. It basically has to do with how much extra value you would get out of something versus something else. Everything comes at a cost, right? Basically, every time you're doing time management, you're always doing opportunity cost calculation. Because if you're doing something for 15 minutes, that means you can't do anything else in those 15 minutes, right? So you have to calculate, like, how much time do I apply to something versus something else. So sometimes in certain sources, it might be more efficient to go for IED here, and then in another one, it might be more efficient to go for crit rate. An example I used in the stream the other day is, for example, your Legion grid. Critical rate and boss damage are the same in there, right? It's 1% per block, and that's just what it is. But if you look in your hyper stats, it's 1% in the beginning for critical rate, and then it goes up to 2%. But the hyper stats cost the same per level, indiscriminately of which one. But then for boss damage, it starts with 3%, and it goes up to 4%. So comparatively, if you need critical rate somewhere, it's better to get it in your grid. But if you need boss damage somewhere, it's better to get it in your hyperstats, especially when you're going at those really high levels where it's really expensive to level up, right? Like past level 11, 12, 13. So that's a good way to know, like, what is your opportunity cost of your hyperstats or of your Legion grid pieces in order to prioritize where you go for those stats. And the clustering effect of IED makes it so that it is very beneficial to go for IED in the Legion grid because it can create that one cluster of 40%. And because every individual IED source is calculated individually on how much distance is left, bigger sources like a 40% IED are more efficient than multiple smaller sources, right? Because every time a smaller source is applied, it's applied over a smaller amount than the last one, which means you get reduced efficiency every single time. So the further you go in the game, the more, like, having the IED 40% in your grid just covered just becomes a given, basically. Even as a dual blade, it's not like you can just waltz in with 80%, because even if your functional isn't quite 80 and it's maybe closer to 86 or 87, that still means you're losing like 39% final damage on those high level bosses, which is just too much. It's just too much efficiency loss. So in general, I'll probably move the grid into critical damage max, IED max, and then making sure you have enough, like, crit rate to hit 100%, right? And then whatever's left into boss damage. That would probably be my priority. And I think you should see that you will be applying way more of your damage to the boss, and you won't, as long as you visually aren't going over, or like you're just scraping like 90%, you're fine. But you just don't want to be at, like, you know, in this stage where you're at, when you're doing like the normal bosses, maybe going towards hard lucid, hard will, you don't want to be visually at like 96 or something. That means that you're just way over. But that's typically only possible because of the diminishing returns, right? That's typically only possible if you have like 2, 3, or 4 lines of IED on your weapon, secondary, and emblem or something. So then you already know, like, this is a little fishy. And then if you did roll that, what that would mean is that you can basically roll all of your hyperstats, right? And go just slam those into damage. You can move your grid around if you want to do that, right? So you can move around it to make it more functionally useful. But in general, if you have that many lines of IED on the WSE, you definitely just need to be rolling.
Yeah.
Because you have too many outs that would be damage increase, basically, yeah. And the main, and why is that? It's because the opportunity cost of your IED on your WSE is extremely high. It's going at the expense of a lot of other damage. Whereas if you're looking at Familiars, is also, early on, the opportunity cost for Familiars is super low, right? Because what can you get? Drop rate and IED, that's it. So if you're bossing, there's no opportunity cost there. But end game, if you're going for uniques and everything, and you want to go for bossing damage Familiars, now the opportunity cost goes up significantly. Yeah, so try to get as much as possible from the lower, from the first ones. But if you have to, you know, temporarily, it's totally fine to get a line there.
Oh yeah. Okay, definitely, yeah.
I mean, you ended up not rolling it, so you know you just try to get it from other pieces, from other places.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll probably just do the Legion thing that you were talking about. That's probably...
It's probably necessary, yeah. And I don't know how much you're getting from Familiars.
That was going to be another topic. That was probably going to be the next one I was going to talk to you about after this one. Because I don't know if you noticed, there's nothing in here about Familiars.
Yeah.
My Familiars are Garbo.
Okay.
They're nothing. I got two little spider guys. You know, they're walking with me. They give me a nice, cool black outline, I guess. But aside from that, you know, it's nothing really. Really of functional use.
Is it the old spiders that gave you extra drop rate mesoptine?
Not the big spiders from what is that, Edelstein? Not from there. The ones in what is it, Esfera or whatever they're called, the purple ones.
Oh, those, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I just have two of those guys. I mean, I have loads of them, but I don't have any good lines on them. But the important question I was going to get to you was, like, do I just try to get, like, good lines of unique Familiars now, or should I just settle on, like, epics and then look at uniques later? I don't know how much longer I'm going to be at these spiders for because of, like, the VC3 or whatever have you, or like
VC3, and then maybe Labyrinth, maybe Limina soon, yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, and if you train in like 16 different maps, then you can really rank up your Familiars because you don't have too many.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know.
Because I got a lot of spiders now.
Yeah.
But like I don't, you know.
They're still sitting as cards, or have like ranked up as well a little bit?
They're sitting as cards right now. Okay. I'm not like working on any of them to try and like get them up because I didn't know if I wanted to go past epic at this point and try to get to uniques or whatever have you. I have like only a couple hundred of these spider cards.
Okay.
So I just wanted to check in with you about maybe the best option would be here at this point, or what maybe your opinion would be to do, and then I would do probably whatever you would suggest at this point in time.
Sure. So I would say early on, I would just reveal all the cards until you have at least 2 IED Familiars and one, hopefully a rare one that says increased drop rate, because that's 50%. So I would definitely reveal until you have at least those 3 boxes checked. Once you have those, you can just skip opening Familiars, at least on that character. And then from then on out, if you're just training in a lot of different areas and you don't have too many cards, you don't have, what do I mean with not many cards? Like if you don't have at least hundreds, then you would just basically like reveal them first if you still need them. If you don't, then just extract them right for the points, so you can have extra Familiar Essence, maybe a booster pack here and there. But once you start getting hundreds, I would focus on just making epics so that you can get the increased item drop rate by a large amount, because that's 100% drop rate, and it's a very, very huge upgrade. Because even if you have the increased item drop rate, which is already really nice, it's another 50% drop rate extra. It helps a lot with getting boss drops that are more rare, like Dominators, kind of treasure rings, those things that will help you progress faster through the game. And it just helps with getting more cards. And once you have that line, then I would start going for uniques, because then your your card, the amount of cards you get, right, will increase quite a bit because of that Familiar. And then you can use that increased drop rate to reliably go to uniques, because uniques need 150 points, right? So that's 150 rares or 70 commons or 75 rares. after you've already gotten them to epic, and then you only have a 40% chance of success, you know, and if it fails, you need to do another 75. So if you're saying you have a few hundred cards, that might not even be, if you get unlucky, that might not even be enough for one unique, but it might be enough for a few epics, so you at least have a few chances of getting that large item drop.
True.
So that's usually what I would advise. So if you have a few hundred, you can definitely try to make some epics. So, you know, you have to level the cards and fuse the cards, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta use them. Gotta use that familiar so they get to whatever level 5, and then you extract the cards into that one, and then you hopefully it, you know, bingo bango, you get the right lines.
Fuse it. Yeah, hopefully, you get another outline. You get red and black at the same time or something.
Oh yeah, that's definitely
anything functional like that.
Oh yeah, of course, you know, fashion story and all that jazz, right?
Yeah. Beautiful. Oh, by the way, for the Legion grid stuff, if you're gonna move that, do you need help with that? Are you familiar with like the grid solver, or are you good doing it on your own?
You mean like how to optionally do it?
Yeah.
I'm not very good at Tetris, but I kind of just like try to fit it in as well as I can. But like if there's like an actual strategy that would save me time, that would be, you know, that could be pretty useful to me probably, because I'm like, when I actually do get into these grids, I'm just trying to like find whichever way these blocks need to go, and sometimes I'll be like, all right, this doesn't work. I think I just need to scrap this and start over again or something.
yeah. So in general, what I would do is I start with the like the big archer pieces in the middle, because they're the only ones that are like long flat lines, right? So you can connect the left and the right side, so you don't have any. Because even now you have like 2 loss already, right? Because of the one overlap and the corner, which, you know, isn't huge, but like the further you go, the more valuable that becomes, right? Because that could be 2% crit rate, for example, already. So, but now you have like 3 overlap and you have that 1 corner, so that's already 4 points. So that could be 4 crit rate, that could be 4 IED, right? Like it starts adding up. That basically is like one of your blocks is essentially doing nothing, right? So you can start like that manually and then just fill it in, or you can use this thing. It takes a little bit of setup, but you'll have to add in here on the side like which blocks you have, which they are, which I think you have one thief, and then you just have a bunch of 200 pieces, right?
Yeah,
I don't know how many you have, but you can put like that. You have like 6 of each or something.
And then it would just make the shape for me?
Well, you'll have to set like which ones you want to fill. And you'll have to look, right? So right now you have 29 characters that you can assign. So these are 31 characters that I just tapped. So you go by order of what are the most important member bonuses. And then the second most important is what is the level of the character, right? Or the size of the piece of the character. And then the third most important criterion is what is the amount of Legion power of the character, right? If you're trying to fill in which characters do I even put in the grid from your account. That's a general priority. And so within that... Sorry?
What was the first priority you were saying? Is
the member bonus?
Member bonus.
Yeah.
Okay. That's like what that singular piece adds to me when I like put it on the...
Yeah, that's here.
Okay.
Yeah, on the left side, yeah. So that's member bonus. And then the second most important thing would be the size, because that implies the grid bonus, right? Bigger piece gives more grid bonus. And then the third most important thing would be the Legion raid power, because that gives you Legion coins.
Yeah.
And then, so based on that, you would write down here which pieces you would have. I don't know, maybe it's 4 warriors, and maybe it's only 4 archers, and maybe it's more thieves and more mages and more pirates, whatever. Yeah. And then you try to match the number here of which characters you put in with the number of characters that you can put in. Oh yeah, so you have 29. So let's say that it's this, whatever, right? So this means that you can fill 117 spots. This has already calculated for you. So now you can go into region click, and you can do like boom, boom, right? These 2 you want to max out. And then you have to calculate like how much crit do you want or do you need. I don't know how much you need. Maybe something like this. So that's or maybe this is enough. So then you can see you have 10 points left. So you can do 10 more points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know, something like that, or maybe something like this. So that these match up, and then you can click start, and boom, there's your solve. And as you see, the archer piece is in the middle, and then it's just connected like that, and you're done.
it just makes a Tetris shape for me. Holy
Yep.
boy.
I had this idea that it would be cool if somebody could make that like a while ago, and people were like, "Oh, that would be so helpful." But then I think a year or a year and a half later, someone was like, "Somebody fucking made it," and I was like, "No way!" And so we jumped into it. Yeah. So the one downside on this is that it will bleed over past bars. So if you want to account for that, you would have to do like let's say like this, and then take a few pieces out, and then click start, and then do this, and then take these pieces out of this equation here, right? And then do reset, and then basically where's the, and then do like clear board, and then do region collect this with whatever pieces are left, and then click that one, and then see how it fills those pieces basically.
I see.
So and that'll help you do just one setup, and then you can move, for example, for yourself. For example, you can move, once you're really big Legion, you can start moving like the boss damage into the EXP or something if you're mobbing versus bossing, right? They can give you that flexibility to not need to make all of the different presets, but you can just have one where you just transpose one block to another one, because you know it'll fit the mold exactly. You just have to rotate all the pieces 90 degrees and you're good.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, if you're not a Tetris god, then maybe that can just take some take some load off.
Definitely. I could definitely just take a crack at that tool and probably save me loads and loads of time. Yeah, I didn't even know that was there. So thank you for that. Sure.
No worries. Yeah, because I was wondering, because I can like scold you for overlap, but I think it makes more sense to just work towards a solution, right?
True, very true, very true. Yeah, I think most of that is just me working on those characters.
Yeah, characters leveling is what it looks like 100%. Yeah.
And I just didn't want to worry about
yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. The pieces just got bigger, and you're like, I'll do it later. Because once you get to 8K, you definitely have to start. Because 8K, you get to put 5 extra characters on the board, right? And if those are all 4 shapes, then you basically get to fill 20 extra, so you won't feel like you're losing as much on boss damage. By going into IED, because now you have a 4 overlap. You might be a little bit over 100 on crit rate, maybe, so maybe you can get a little bit from that. And then if you get to 8K, you get 20 extra. And maybe in getting to 8K, some of the pieces that are on the board now maybe aren't level 200, so maybe you gain a little bit in that as well on the way there. So maybe you gain up to like 30 points, which basically means you can almost fill IED for free. Maybe you only give up like 10 boss damage for filling up the IED completely. So
be good stuff.
That's the value of 8K Legion. Of course, I say really close. The last part is the hardest, from 7.7 to 8. Because you probably also just did your Terra Burns, I think, right?
Yeah, I definitely, I'm like trying to get all the little tidbits that I can get from the like 200 to 220 with my newly acquired 215 Bowmaster. I'm waiting on the four level up potions from the whatever that pass thing is to use it, because I missed a couple of days checking in and maxing out those coins, but when I do, that'll be 220 and then all that jazz. But yeah, it'll get there.
Yeah, you got plenty of 200s. That's looking good. You got two 199s at least here, so I don't know if those are 200 yet, but they're really close, so that'll be done in no time.
I think those ones, I think those guys, I just like am waiting for, like, I don't know, maybe I'll just like do the monster parks, or maybe I'll get some random like level up potion from like the monthly thing. It looks like I'm a Legion main. I don't really focus too much on Legion, I'd say. I've just been playing for far too long.
Yeah, exactly. So you've been partaking in all of the events, so yeah, you look back and it's like, oh, did I do all of that? I guess I did.
Yeah, a bunch of burning characters. I got that. And I got that heart. I got the totems. Yeah, I've been around, I guess.
Yeah, I see the Dark Clothes of Darkness totem, so I know at least the character's been around a bit.
Yeah, for
it's seen things.
A little bit of time.
Yeah,
it's seen too many things.
Just to make sure we're good on ID, good on Familiars, because we kind of like went back into the Legion, but I want to make sure that the topics are like all clear to you, and that you don't have remaining questions before we.
What? Yeah, 100%. Okay. IED and Familiars are checked off the list.
And Legion and Links is also good? Or did you have any questions on that topic?
So, So you were saying that the #1 priority would be like the member bonuses, right?
Yep.
It might be a little bit late to ask just because I have so many jobs made, but like maybe what exactly should be ones that are like super top priority that I would want to definitely put on there, and then like maybe because I feel like I might have hit the mark on all good amount of them just because of how many characters I made. And
yeah, it'd be impressive if you actually missed some at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the links command that I have as like the general order that I advise people to level characters in, and that's because of their Legion buffs and their link skill buffs. So the Legion buffs are the green parts, and the link skill buffs are the white parts. But I put them in the same grid because I figured they're both value that a character adds to your account. So it's important to calculate both of them and not just ignore one and do the other one, because then you're just missing value, right? So basically, when it comes to like what link skills do I equip, I would just be, well, are you mobbing or are you bossing, right? That's the most important question first. And then you basically just start from the left side and move your way all the way over to the right. And the same thing would apply if you're trying to fill out your Legion board. Is like, what are you trying to build the Legion board for? And then you just start from the left side and move your way to the right. But you just look at the other color, essentially. So you look at the Legion grid bonus. So it's like, oh, you're going to do any kind of training? Okay, you definitely want to have the 0 in there, right? If you're bossing, you technically don't need the 0. But I would say that the further you go in Legion, the less you build a setup for whether you're mobbing or bossing, and the more you build up a setup for, at least in the main of which pieces go in, is more set up like, is my character a mage or not? Because a lot of stuff will end up, and because the baseline will be the same, right? You'll have your EXP, you have your crit rate, your critical damage, you'll have the Meso-Obtain, the buff duration, right? Skill CDR, like those pieces, those are always in there. And then a lot of the damage ones will try to be in there, right? Like damage to bosses, that kind of stuff. And once you have a Legion of your size, it mainly comes down to like which ones of like the red columns do I add in, right? Like of the stats. And that's when it comes down to like a combination of, maybe it's not as important anymore which stats they give, because once all your main stats and your secondary stat is in, you probably still have slots left. And that's when the size of the piece comes in, so that the grid bonus becomes more important. And the Legion raid power might actually even come in on the last ones. Maybe not yet for you, but once you get to 8k, that might be your only criterion that's left, because you'll just have anything that's even remotely useful in there. But if you are doing a mage, for example, all of the main stats and secondary stats is going to be completely wasted, and there's quite a lot of mages, as you can see. So if you can replace like 7 characters with mages that all give you 80, right, at level 200, that's 560 intellect on a new low-level character. And that's how you get those level 10 mages on Maple Island just hitting... well, actually, if you're doing on Maple Island on a mage, you actually want the strength again, right? Because you're going to use basic attacks, so you want to hit those 8k crits on on Maple Island at level 6 or something.
Poor snails.
But yeah, they get absolutely demolished. Like their entire lineage just gets smacked into oblivion. But once you actually do the job advancement to be a mage, then you probably want to focus on the int blocks over. So what I have is 2 major setups, one for mages, one for non-mages, and then within those setups I have the individual blocks kind of like cut off, like with the setup, so that I can move. It's either like, it's always enough crit rate and then critical damage full, and then I have IED and boss damage that I could technically move if I want to. So boss damage typically goes into bonus EXP, and now an additional option, but you would need some extra, is to go like straight down into where you have HP now, and to transpose the IED piece into where normal damage would be. But that so, you know, to get even more damage to normal monsters. But I would say that even if for you as a Dualblade, that might really not be necessary unless you're going into like Cernium or Burning Cernium and you're trying to go in there early, because, you know, then you have to combat with not having any sacred power, which you're going to, at least if you had 260 and you're going into those areas, you're going to be depressed at how low your damage numbers are, because you've just fought with for the last 3 or 4 years you've fought with the arcane power bonus, and you have your max symbols and everything, right? So now you have to be like, oh, this is what damage is like without that, because the only other places you usually have that is when you're attacking bosses, but then you at least have boss damage to compensate, so the numbers aren't that much lower. But when you're fighting those monsters, it's like, damn, these boys are beefy. They do not take damage well. Yeah, I still have all the lines, but they seem to be shorter. Yeah, like people are mentioning in the chat though, you do have a lot of Legion coins because of you've been playing for so long and you did have a big Legion for a while. So that does give you a really good baseline to be able to get high efficiency from the time that you're spending training and bossing. So I'd definitely not shy away from just popping some drop rate coupons if you're doing some of those bosses, just because especially because you know you're not going to be doing it all the time. So when you are doing it, you want to get as much value out of it as possible. And it comes down to like capitalizing on the effort that you have put in, because you have put a lot of effort into your Legion. So you're entitled to capitalizing on that, right, and reaping the benefits.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's how I'd prioritize what characters, member bonus, and also what link skills to take in any situation.
Yeah, I think probably the last couple of jobs that I haven't hit yet, I think are probably just negligible as far as like the member bonuses go.
Most likely, it's like the Kaiser, like Corsair, Buccaneer, Xenon, maybe like some of those. Like the Xenon link skill is nice, like the 10% all stat. The problem is just that it gets outscaled by so many things. So early on, it's really nice, but for like endgame, it's not that important.
Yeah, definitely. I've just made so many, and I just think I've just hit the mark on those, and I can just focus mostly on like the second and third priorities that you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Also because you have so many. The first priority is really important just for like the first 15 characters on the board or something, but you're like going into the 30s, right? So you're past that point.
You're right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You're mostly going to be filling on like size, for the grid bonus.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that at the beginning, but like that makes a lot more sense to like get that like what is it, Mestos obtained on the Phantom block or something, probably early on or something.
Yeah.
So you can find your stuff faster.
Yeah. So much faster, 4%. It's like insane gains. I mean, it does add up. I mean, if you add up like how much money it is over time, it's probably been a few billion. Yeah.
Probably, but wherever you can get it, right?
Yep.
But yeah.
Well, and like, wherever you can get it with low opportunity cost, right? And in that case, it's very low opportunity cost because probably the alternative you have is like 20 luck or something, or well, in your case, maybe like a 20 strength, which you have 2 secondary stats, so you can probably fill up with secondary stats quite far. But like, if the next one is a mage that's like the same block piece, same Legion raid power, but is intellect, well then, the Phantom was going to win there anyway, so.
Yeah, true, very true. I have 2 secondary stats?
Yeah, strength and dex are both secondary stats. So as a Dualblade, you scale harder than most other people off of all stat. If you hit that on flames, or if you hit that on potentials, it's the all stat lines are comparatively better for you.
Ah, interesting.
So you'll notice that if you have... I
just thought I was a regular thief.
Yeah, no, so Cadenas, Dualblades, and Shadowers have 2 secondary stats. So if you sometimes see, if you see an item with like percentage all stat versus just percentage flat stat, if someone like links an item to you or something, it'll comparatively look quite a bit better. And you can keep that for a longer. So like your solid Gallic string, for example, like that potential. So to give a comparison, because there's like a Cadena dude, Noah is in the guild and in the stream a lot. Of course, one of my mods. He has so Cadena has the same situation. So his well, it's a potential badge. Do you have a potential badge? Are you that old?
No, I'm not that old.
Not that old. Okay, but so like so compare like his potential badge is, I believe it's 10, 10, and 7 all stat. So 27% all stat with a double prime.
Yeah.
So the alternative, people would be like, oh, you need to get to luck because then it's 13, 10, 10, right? So you're gaining 6% luck. But he's seen other people with that same potential to compare it to, and it gives him like, I think it gives him like 50,000 range or something. So, you know how much 50,000 range is, right, for you. But like when he's buffed, I think he goes up to like 600 million range. So it's like, it's not even worth like thinking about the money for that upgrade. But that's how strong Allstat is, that even it can overcome. So like the 27% dex and luck and strength, overcomes the 6% luck loss, which usually for secondary set it doesn't. But yours counts twice as hard, so it's actually non-negligible. So if you're using like the flame score calculator, for example, to kind of see how good your flames are, make sure that you put yourself as the as the Shadow Cadena Dualblade to make sure that you're getting accurate representation of like how good your stuff is. Because all stat will, and you have this right, like your superior belt has 4%, your superior ring has 4%. Those are good comparatively because you can basically, if you see all stat, you can count it as 10. But like for Noah, who's at like level 280, I think he's closer to 11 or even past 11 in value. But like calculate 10 on the safe side because you might not get that far into the game, right? Because he's at 280 and is like full 21 everything now, and with a bunch of 22s. Yeah, but it does progressively scale with you so well because you have those 2 secondary stats.
Man, I didn't even know that. Actually, like how? I just thought these were just like just luck and dex. How does that even?
I think it's because in the past you had strength daggers on thieves, so they wanted to make sure that people who went strength dagger and got strength stats didn't get like punished for that. And because Dualblades also equip daggers, I think they did the same thing. Now, I'm not sure why they decided to do it for Cadenas, but they did,
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Might be some remnant of old stuff, and maybe they just decided to code the stat for Cadena. Whoever coded it copied, like, copied Shadower or something, and then it happened to get in there, and they were like, oh, fuck it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure,
really
but...
interesting. I guess they must have, like fixed their boo-boo when they made Hoyoung, I guess, or something, right?
Yeah, but then that guy uses a fan, so it's basically like a Kana weapon. I don't know, they just...
Man, yeah, it's crazy.
They're all just a little bit different.
Game. Yeah, just a little bit. Alright, I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, I was going to mention that, particularly with my totems, because I have 3 dark totems, but it's like the luck one, the dex one, and the strength one. And then obviously you see me, I have that goo totem. But when I'm looking at when I'm comparing them, the goo one was giving me more than the dark dex one.
Because all stat, right? It was overtaking
but the strength one was giving me more than the dex one. I was like, aren't I a thief?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's like, you already kind of saw that there was something fishy going on. Yeah, so now you know why that is.
Like, what's going on?
And the goo is overtaking because of the all stat, right? So it's luck and strength and dex.
Yeah, it was like 20 on like all the stats and like 10 attack, and it's like 5 less attack than the dark one, but it's like it's got the all stat. And I'm like, okay, all right, that's where the numbers line up. It makes sense, I guess, in my head. All right. Cool.
Yeah, and when it comes down to, you can at least look at the range if it comes down to not having like boss damage or IED or anything like that, right? Then you can at least count on the white numbers to tell you the right thing. But even then, it's a little weird now because it's like you'll have percentage damage and it'll look really good, but then you have percentage damage to normal monsters and percentage damage to boss monsters which can give you reduced efficiency on those numbers, so you're not sure if it's actually better. Because like your emblem, right? That's a little bit of a situation where your emblem is at 12 attack, 15, 12 attack and 9 damage and 6 offset. Yeah. So damage percentage now, because of our low base damage, right, with the reboot passive change, looks better most of the time than attack on like white numbers or like range numbers. But that's because none of those like damage to normal monsters or to boss monsters is applying at that point. And when it does, attack could be actually scaling better, because then attack in its sense is forming a clump of final damage that is then multiplied with that percentage clump of boss damage. So you still have to optimize for bosses typically than for mobbing. If you had 2 emblems, and you can get like a 30% damage emblem, that'd probably be better for mobbing. And then the bossing one would probably be better with percentage attack because of how the stats have shifted. But having a combination is not bad, but until you get further into the game and you want to min-max, then it's a good idea to throw it into a calculator, use like the WSE, and you can basically calculate the 9% damage as a boss damage line, and then basically see how that compares to what is optimal, and then you pretty much always see just full attack on emblem, please. Maybe a line of IED on some classes, but like basically full attack, because then on bosses, because the lines, and again the opportunity cost here, if you have one extra line of, let's say that you can have a line of 30% boss on a weapon, and then 9% attack on an emblem, or 9% damage on an emblem, and then 10 attack on a weapon, right? You have 10 attack and 9 damage versus 9 attack and 30 or 40 boss damage. Like, what's going to be better at bossing, right? Now that 9% damage looks like absolutely nothing. It looks like a third or a quarter of a line, right?
Yeah.
Or like slightly better than that because 1% extra attack. But at that point, now it becomes clear that it is going at the cost of a lot of damage. Because that's internally balanced, right? That the 30 boss and the 10 or 13 attack or 40 boss, that they're like roughly the same. So that way you know that 9% damage is just not coming close when it comes to bossing. When it comes to mobbing, it is, but yeah. Yeah, just wanted to make that sure.
Yeah, you'd probably recommend just to like roll my emblem just pretty much ASAP.
Maybe we have Shining Star Force coming, so I probably would put any money that you have like realistically into Star Forcing, but then after that probably the emblem would be next. Yeah. I'm just checking because we're kind of like short on the time, but I want to make sure that we stay on track.
Okay, yeah.
Did you have any questions for VMatrix? Because I did notice a few things here that might we might want to move around a little bit.
Not really. The only note that I really had was like I know that eventually I would want what my 2 perfect try nodes for bossing and then my 2 perfect try nodes for like grinding. And then like I noticed that my two grinding nodes that you can see here, neither of them have Blade Ascension, but I feel like if I were to want to find Blade Ascension, it's kind of like, I don't know, I feel like it's sort of like negligible because I'm mostly using just like my Blade Fury and my Sudden Raid, I guess.
Yeah, it can be personal if you feel like you don't really use a skill at all. I think it's just if you use Blade Ascension to move around and it can actually also kill, it's just like a nice little added bonus. But depending on where you train, it might not be that big of a deal. Do either of them start with? Yeah, the third one starts with the third skill, right? What is this one? Yeah,
I think it's Blade Storm or something,
or Bloodstorm or something, right? That was the old name.
Something like that.
Yeah, whether that's gonna be a problem or not might be just a preference thing.
Yeah, I think maybe later on down the road when I feel like man, why isn't my Blade Ascension one hitting these guys? Maybe I'll, you know. But I think until then, I think I'll be fine. Cause like even without the Blade Ascension, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel too bad to me personally, but I'm sure it would be nice for like, min-maxers to be like, I want my Blade Ascension to one hit.
Just for that third slot to do something that you might use at some point, right?
Yeah, that does make sense.
Versus the skill just doesn't get used, so yeah.
Yeah, I would just have to spend the time finding it now at this point because I've invested so much on these two already.
Yeah, the 25 could be moved over easily, right? You can just throw it in, but the 16 would have some trouble because you'd have to disassemble that one.
Well, the 25 one that's already on the board for grinding, it has, what is it? It's the Blade Fury, the Sudden Raid, and then another third skill that I don't use at all either.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, like, if you define the try for that one that start with Sudden Raid, right? Then you can move it over.
You're right.
Yeah, you can just put the 25 and then insta max, but the 16, you would since the top skill is one you don't want. Yeah,
the 16 is just pretty much useless. Yeah, except for like this or the whatever.
Do you use auto buff?
I do not use auto buff.
Okay. Because well, so from your grid you have decent. This is probably the first time I've seen someone with decent Vaughn's Blessing max. That's probably a first. Because the decent skills, except for Holy Symbol, the decent skills don't really give you additional effects for leveling, except that you have more time in between needing to refresh them and being able to refresh them, right? So it helps you optimize that they don't desync with your burst, so that you're like, okay, we're bursting in 10. Is like, okay, my decent skills are running out in 15 seconds. That's fucked, right? Because now you have to either delay by 15 seconds or you have to, right? So they're having a higher level and a window is nice. But these days, a lot of people use auto buff, so I usually say just leave your decent skills at level 1, or because your pets will take care of them anyway, and then you can have all those extra shards. But when it comes to, because they don't get effects, right? Like Holy Symbol gets extra effects. So if this is your, this looks like your bossing setup though, right? So this is your bossing setup. I would definitely put Last Resort and your bind into leveled up slots over the 2 decent skills always, because your bind will get a lower cooldown, so you'll have more flexibility with it, and last resort will give you more final damage. And then at the end of the boss fight, I'd probably try to get your holy symbol into a leveled up slot as well, which can be pretty easy. You can always move it with a boost node, right? Because the boost nodes don't go on cooldown. And then apply a holy symbol to get more drop rate at the end of the boss fight. But when you're mobbing, I would definitely prioritize having holy symbol in a leveled up slot, but it'll usually take the room of like Goddess Blessing or something, right? Because that's not really used when you're mobbing. I don't think Shadow Walker and Last Resort are used when you're mobbing either, right? Or the bind. It gets a lot of slots. One thing that you're missing that I think is even more important than the Decent Advanced Blessing is your Speed Infusion.
Yeah, I actually learned that recently, that I do need decent speed infusion. For the longest time, I was under the impression that I didn't need it.
I see.
And it was actually like a week before I checked the Dualblade Discord, or like I found out that there was even a Dualblade Discord through your Discord and your YouTube channel. Thank goodness. Right? And like I get in there and I'm like,
wait a minute.
I've always been on the fence about this because I just heard it from one guy that didn't even main Dualblade, but it was one of my friends that was just higher than me, and I was just like, he's my only resource, I'll take it. But I'm like, I've never been too sure about this. I'll ask. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, no.
So you basically got a rank of attack speed the whole time. This will also help with bossing, because you can just, all the attacks being just a little bit faster just allows you to get out of the way just a little bit faster, so you can commit more damage and just have more security in reading the boss movements and being able to respond to them just a little bit faster. And that helps a lot. Like Green Pot and Speed Infusion together for max attack speed. The reason that someone might have said the opposite, or there is an exception, because if you are using the Sweetwater Dagger for a bit, the Sweetwater Dagger is actually faster attack speed. So that one is one higher than all the other daggers in the game. And if you have that one, then you can hit max attack speed without the Speed Infusion. But all the other ones are just fast, so you would need Speed Infusion to make up for that one rank of speed lost. Yeah. So in this situation, if this is like your bossing situation, I would definitely throw in the decent Speed Infusion over. So probably in the same spot as where either the bind or the last resort is, and I move bind and last resort and switch those where Sharp Eyes and Decent Advanced Blessing is, and probably take Decent Advanced Blessing out from this situation, or the mobbing node, right?
Yeah, definitely. Agreed.
But I'd probably take, okay, so if I got to redo this for bossing, I'd take Blessing and your mobbing node out. I would put Last Resort and Bind instead of where Blessing was. Bind and Last Resort instead of where Blessing was and where Sharp Eyes is. And I put in your Wind Booster and your True Arachnid Reflection.
Okay.
Because that's a strong skill. It does a lot of damage, and it's a nice summon that does damage over time. And I would say both for mobbing and bossing, it's a useful skill. So I wouldn't keep that on the bench. Not when you're this far and you have this many slots open.
Okay.
Especially when you're mobbing, right? Because like we talked about, like Shadow Walker and the Bind and Last Resort are going to be gone, and probably the Goddess Blessing even, because you have so many slots. Then definitely that comes in.
Around.
Yeah, and you can make the you can maybe even make the what's it called, the EXP skill, character building 1, the special node. Do you do that ever?
No, definitely not. No. I have no clue.
Yeah, so the special nodes last a week, and you can grind some specific ones. You can only use one special node at a time. But there's one that would help you a little bit of bossing. It's basically when you're just trying to min-max your damage, and everyone's like trying hard to kill a boss, and everyone's kind of like, skin over their teeth kind of thing.
You get what you can get.
I think it's called Fatal Strikes, that can give you like 100% extra damage for 2 seconds every 30 seconds or something. So it can squeeze out a bit of extra damage here and there. And then there's a healing one, like a full heal one, that will full heal you every 20 seconds, I believe, when you're activating skills. So that can help in the beginning when you're practicing Will, for example, that has the heal block in phase 2, which might be tricky. If you don't have a lot of healing familiars yet, that might help you out with that. And then there's character building one, and that one is good to make if you're going to do like long training sessions. That one lasts a week. And basically, if you get hit, it might be tricky for you because your dodge is insanely high, right? But if you get hit a certain amount of times within a certain amount of time, then it will trigger like an an increase in EXP. So it's possible that Rune EXP is better for you, where it just gives you an extra EXP boost for like 30 seconds after you activate a rune. But you might have to see, like, if you make the character building and it just never triggers, and you see if it triggers if you see like a big V over your head, right? You probably saw it in other people. That means that your special node is activated.
Okay.
So if you basically do a whole session and you basically never see it pop up because you dodge too much, then yeah, I guess it's not really worth it for you.
True, very true.
Yeah, then you might throw your boost nodes in there and then whatnot.
Yeah, I never even really looked at like those special nodes, but like I think if I'm going to be min-maxing, I would probably want to consider them at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly like when people are trying to squeeze in like hard lucid and might not have enough burst, or they want to kill hard will faster. And then if you're doing both of the bosses, you just make the skill node so that you can do both. And they made it so that special nodes don't, when they expire, they just go on non-active, so you can just extract them still. In the past, they would always just disappear, and then you lost all the extra shards for them, which was a bit annoying. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I was under the impression of, that like if I don't extract them now, I'm not gonna remember. So
yeah. Definitely, if you open a bunch, you always want to immediately extract them so you don't forget. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a little bit of tweaking there on the grid, but yeah, so like for future characters, I would definitely not level up the decent skills. Well, maybe level them up a little bit in the beginning if you want to, but not this far. Or if you do, everything else has to be maxed. Like your bind should already be maxed. If you're holding on to like Urda's will and blink, like those would be maxed before the decent skills, definitely. The only decent skill that I would expect to see you maxed at this level, but then you don't, is decent holy symbol, because it's more drop rate and more EXP as it levels up. So that one actually gets benefit from leveling.
Okay. Yeah.
So a little realignment in the priorities there. So if you're going to do it on another character, that way you can, make sure that you get more value out of your nodes there that time.
Understood. Yeah. 100%.
Okay. Yeah, we're already a little bit over time, but I guess we can circle back to the equips now finally, right?
Yeah.
So one thing I noticed is a few things that are missing that are like high priority. And a few things that I just want to say word of caution. So I noticed that your so the word of caution first. I see that your hat and your pants are 22 and your top is 17. What it says to me is like a slight, just double checking, is that, are you trying to get them to 22 one at a time? Or were they all 21 and you get them all from 21 to 22 and then 2 of them worked and 1 failed? Because I'm thinking it's situation 1, right?
Yeah.
It's a common thing to be like, I just want to be 22 so I can be done. But it's very important to realize, and again, you can definitely do that if you want to, but if you play more casually like you and you have more limited resources, you are more likely to end up with like a bunch of 17s and a whole bunch of money spent and no real gains. If you do it this way, versus if you go about it just 1 star at a time and just like frog leap them up like as they go. At this point, both of like the other 2 are 22 and the one is 17, so you have no choice now but to just go on the top, right? But 21 stars, especially for CRA, is a very good spot to be at. Because if you have everything 21 in your account, you can do Black Mage. Like, you don't really need 22s. It's just kind of there to bait you, basically. And it is a very risky last extra star. The other item that you can very easily go for high. So when you go high star force, you're thinking backups, right? And we talked about that in the beginning.
Yep.
So there's another item that you can get an insane amount of backups on, right?
Yeah. Definitely. I definitely have like a however many of those like little pieces of whatever have you just like in my inventory. I forgot to like show them in here because I didn't.
Yeah, no worries. Exactly, but there's another item besides CRA that is like on the same level of backups for you as a Dualblade, right? Your Katara.
I see where you're getting
because of Sweetwater. So if you're looking at like pieces like where can I push right? For Star Force, it's for most people it's just CRA, and then everything besides after that is like you have to get drops, you have to get backups. Maybe belts are easy because of Ping Bean, but Dualblade has the extra value where if you just do Commercy for like a week, you can get like 20 Katars or something because they just drop out the ass, right? So you have an extra item there where you can guarantee that pretty quick upgrade. So I would see at this point the top and the Katara as like the ones where you just go 1 star on one star on the other one, get them both to 18, get them both to 19, get them both to 20, try to get them both to 21, depending on your budget. But that way you can make sure that even if one of them fails, at least the other one made gains, so you minimize the chance of making no gains whatsoever.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't even think about the Katara because...
Is it transposed, by the way, your Katara?
So I had when I got the Katara, I had no idea like what transposing was, and whoever explained it to me explained it very poorly that I still didn't understand, and I didn't want to sit there after 20 minutes and being like, yeah, not a word of what you said made sense to me. Can you just like explain it again but dumber? I just kind of just like let him be like, yeah, I did a good job. And so I just got whatever Sweetwater Katara, just got it up to 17 stars, and then tried to get a decent legendary line.
Yeah, and if you're going to be sending like up to 21 and stuff, it's a good idea to transpose first and then go from there. Because this makes sense that you make this and that you use this for a while, but if you want to send further, it's better to have the transpose. So transposing does a few things. Transposing is always from an item into a Sweetwater item. That's the only way you can transpose. And the max level difference can be 20 levels, and you know Sweetwater stuff is 160. So immediately, like anything below level 140, you don't even look at it. It doesn't have anything to do with transposing. And I believe not between 155 and 160 either, but there might only be like one item in the entire game that is not even attainable. So that's whatever. So there's a few main reasons why you transpose. The first main reason is because you get to have... I guess the biggest reason is because for a bunch of items, it is easier to get backups as Sweetwater than it is as the original item. And more backups means guaranteed or higher chance of high Star Force, which means more damage, which means a better piece. The second thing that's very important is that you get to move your flame from the existing item onto the transposed item, which is the only system that allows you to do that in the game. And because Sweetwater stuff inherently doesn't have flame advantage, this can be a huge benefit. So people do it for like a Papulatus mark onto a Sweetwater monocle. People will do it for a Dominator pendant onto a Sweetwater pendant because it allows you to fill up the slot that is left by the Superior Golic sets. It allows to fill those up with a really powerful item for the reason that you can get high Star Force and for the reason that you get a flame advantage now on something that doesn't inherently have flame advantage because it's lacking that damage because it doesn't have a set bonus, so you have to get that damage somewhere else. And the third reason is when you transpose, some of the base... some of the enhancement stats of the Star Force, even though you lose the Star Force you lose 1 star when you transpose in the same way when you transfer hammer, the value of that star gets imprinted onto the item and gets stuck to the item forever. So you're basically gaining a star.
Oh.
And based on when you do it, you will gain a star of like a different level, and you will have more stars to do afterwards on the higher level item. Right? And the optimal sweet spot that we found is at 16 stars. So if you add how many bonus stats you get, plus how many more stars you get because you are star forcing on a level 160 item versus a lower level item, the sweet spot is 16 stars apparently. So the first two, the first one is very important for you for Katara, right? The second one isn't because you can't get flames, but the third one again is important. And the only reason why you would transpose, because the first one you're already using Sweetwater Katara, so there's no reason to transpose. The second one, like no flame advantage, also no important reason for you to transpose. So you're really min-maxing on that third slot where it's, I don't know exactly, but I think it's something like 11 stat and 8 magic, and 8 weapon attack or something, which, you know, in the grand scheme of things, now isn't that important, but if you were min-maxing it later, you wish you would have done it earlier, right? So it's a good idea to do it now. So what you want is you want a Fafnir Katara. So make those with the pieces of destruction from Vellum, and then get it to 16 during the event, and then try to transpose. But you might want to do it early, so that you're transposed by the time the event comes around, so that when the event comes around, you can already go hard on the transposed Katara. Because transposing is like a 4% chance and you can do it 10 times a day. So it might take a few days or even up to a week. Maybe it's already late. You know, maybe you won't even make it. But hopefully you do. To transpose it before that time, and then you can send it during the event. It's a bad idea in general, PSA, to be like, oh, I'll just transpose it on the day of, you know, but then if it fails, there goes all your gains. So
yeah, definitely.
So you need enough dineros to transpose. It costs 10 dineros per attempt. So if you don't have dineros backup, that might be a little bit tricky as well.
Yeah, I'd be rolling my dice pretty hard. I definitely don't remember the last time I ran Commercy for anything at all, so my dineros are looking a little slim. But you know, we'll pray. We'll test our luck. You said 16 stars?
16 stars, yeah.
The Fafnir?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah, but get on those dineros and give yourself as many attempts as possible. Because between your top and your Katara, that's probably where you're going to want to spend all your money during the Shining Star Force. And it should be like a guarantee, even with the money you have, it should be like a guaranteed 19 stars on both. But maybe one of the two can get up to 21, and then, you know, and then you'll be in a pretty nice situation.
Yeah, maybe. I got really lucky with my hat. I got to 20, and it was like my first 20 ever. And then I was in that Discord with my friends, and I'm like, but what if I tapped it to 21? And then I tapped it, got to 21, and then everybody was freaking out. And I'm like, okay, but what if I tapped it to 22?
Yeah,
it was super crazy, and everybody was like, "Bro, you're the first 22 in the server." And I was like, "Oh, oh, my pacing."
Yeah, I would definitely say that peer pressure is probably one of the main reasons for 22 stars, and also one of the main reasons for people being very mad at the Star Force system for not giving them 22 stars. It goes either one of those two ways. Yeah.
I can imagine. That's funny.
So I would say that's the main focus. Besides that, I think the main focus, or the secondary focus, I guess, should be to work on backups and think, so general backups, right? So you have like daily bosses, slow backups, so like Kana treasure rings, primals and dominators, right? So like normal arc, Helix, and Princess No as like the most important dailies and weeklies out there. So if you're going to do anything, try to do those as much as possible. Some potential tweaks. So on the potential, after you do these things, two big things is you generally want to get critical damage on your gloves. It's way more valuable than just stat. Even if you get 30%, like a line of 8% critical damage is usually for most people worth like, I think it's worth usually closer to like 40% stat just for one line. So people tend to go for like 8% critical damage and a line of stat. And then if you go into arcane gloves, initially you also do that, like, you know, 8% critical damage and a line of stat, or maybe, you know, if you get decent sharp eyes or decent speed infusion, that can give you like a free slot in the matrix, right, if you need that. But typically by that point you don't need that anymore. And then eventually you go full black cubes on trying to get 2 lines of critical damage, but that's usually after you make mostly 21 stars and you transfer hammer like level 140 pieces into 20 star superior stuff, things like that. The other thing for potential that's going to be really important for you is to get cooldown reduction on your hat.
Okay.
Over stat. Even if you just get like 2% cooldown reduction and nothing else, it'll already be a huge difference. Training will be way smoother, and bossing will just always... Also, you'll put out way more damage on bossing, because your big damage dealers are your Tornado and your Blades of Destiny, and they will both have their cooldown cut significantly, so you can just throw them out way more. So when it comes to mobbing, you can cover the maps way better, and when it comes to bossing, your DPM will just shoot up.
Okay.
So you can think about it, right? Like, let's say, I don't know what the cooldowns are exactly, but let's say they have 20-second cooldown, and you get 22-second cooldown reduction. Now you can use them every 18 seconds, so you can use them 10% more. Is 21% intellect, is that 10% of your damage of those two skills? It's probably less. So just a 2-second cooldown reduction is actually going to increase your bossing damage. Plus, it's going to help you just get those skills just a little bit faster. So it might help you clear the full map of monsters right before the respawn again, right?
Definitely.
And then later on, people will go for like 3 or 4 seconds of cooldown even on the hat. But then you would do the same thing like with the gloves. You would do that with black cubes because then you have a better chance of the double prime lines. And that'll be something you min-max on or like around the same time, basically. If you can get, cooldown reduction and a little bit of stat, of course, that would be ideal. Sometimes people go for like multiple hats and stuff. But those are like the two things I would say potential-wise. And of course, your top has no luck whatsoever. Maybe get a little bit of luck on there.
Yeah, maybe. I think that's the fresh one that was trying to get to 22 the last time. I'm like, dang it didn't hit it, but I might as well try to get some nice potential lines on this one with whatever random cubes I find.
And if you do if you do other pieces, you might have some cubes left. And then I would say after that is probably the emblem to try to at least get 2 lines of attack, because 2 lines of attack will already be better than what you have now, and it should be doable on like 2 bill. Like that's not a major investment, but you'll also be redoing the Katara, right? So it'll probably be like Katara most important, then your hat, then your glove, depending on how close you are to arcane. If you're like really close to getting glove arcane, or you can just make that as your first arcane to transition into, then you can just completely skip working on this glove's potential and just immediately focus on the arcane glove, and then do the emblem. I would say that's like the priority.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because I think I'm pretty close to being able to get 1 piece of arcane equipment from the dude. I just didn't know if there was like
12 I think, right? You need 12 coins. So typically you just pick whatever one gives you the biggest upgrade, which typically is the weapon first, but it's also the most expensive. So that's that's the problematic one. But if you can get to Tornado's 12 seconds. So 2 seconds is 17% of your cooldown on that one, and Blades of Destiny is 10 seconds. But if it's 10 seconds, it doesn't go -2, Tiny Baguette. If it's 10 seconds, it goes minus 0.5% per second, so it goes -1%, so it'll go to 9 seconds. Because there is diminishing returns on the lower cooldowns. Because way in the past, I don't know if you know this, but way in the past, one of the major broken classes was Demon Avenger, actually. Because they had their Nether Shields, was a really good skill, but it had 5-second cooldown. And what people would do is they would get 4-second cooldown hat and cooldown skip, which basically just meant that the skill was like a second or less cooldown, right? Because of the Mercedes Legion as well. So you would just like hold down the skill, and you would like you would just send like 300 shields into the map, and then just walk around, and the shield would just be like just destroying everything. And then you have someone like soloing Helix just by like summoning a few hundred swords, and Oh, he did -10. Oh, it's -10%. Okay, yeah, you're right, yeah. -10% cooldown, my bad. Yeah, you're right. So it goes down from 10 to 9, yeah. Which is still good, right? 10% on that, and then 17% on the other one. So their damage output, if you slam them whenever they're available, goes up by 10 and 17%, so that's pretty massive. And then, okay, so we talked about the Star Force and the prioritizing of the numbers. We talked about the transposing, talked about the potential. And then the other thing is flames. But honestly, I would just sit on flames and not really worry about it too much. The one thing that you probably want to be thinking of is if you have extra Dominator Pendant, is just to try to get another Dominator to 16 and to try to get a really good flame, right? So flame score of 110 or higher, so that you can transpose into Sweetwater eventually. And if you're not actively, or if you do have something else to work on in flames instead, then don't work on those flames, but work on the other thing. And I think the only other project that would probably benefit a little bit more is maybe better Pink Holy Cup Flame, because that one is on the low end. You want to have that one be similar to where your CRA is at, and I guess the CRA could improve a little bit as well, but you probably want to have them at this point like around an 85 to like 90 flame score.
Okay.
So basically at least where the top is at. So the pants and the hat can both be improved as well. So you don't have to feel... I would just work on one project at a time, because then if the flame is bad on that item, it doesn't really matter. One item can have a bad flame. Doesn't affect you. But then as soon as it's better than whatever other item, then you just shift the focus on the other item, and until you get them all like evenly up. Kind of like how you do the Star Force. Because your flame income is probably not going to be too high, so it's mostly during events like this, right? Where you have the... is it Melody coins or the regular ones? The other coins, right? Where you can buy flames in that shop from the weekly bosses coins. So probably evenly bring those up, and then if you have any arcanes, then those will take priority basically, because level 200, so you can get way better flames on there. And then if you get the arcane weapon, that will be top priority by far. But that's kind of how I would prioritize like what to work on potential-wise, what to work on flame-wise, and what to work on Star Force-wise.
Okay. One question I have written down is that I have a fake arcane dagger just kind of sitting in my inventory. When do you think that is ever going to come into play for me, or
Yes.
is that just kind of like... Okay.
Yeah, it probably will, because what will happen is that you will start getting the other arcane equips one at a time, because there'll be big upgrades compared to this one. And if you have a fake arcane, that means you can start taking advantage of the set bonus without needing to buy the actual full weapon, which is very expensive. And even with the fake potential, I mean, you have 10% damage, 23% attack, so that's really good pot. But the base, if you get an okay flame attack-wise on the fake arcane, probably once you get to 3 or 4, well, I don't know, maybe even 2 set bonus already, it'll still be an improvement compared to what you have now, just because the base attack on it is so much higher.
Okay.
Because how much? It's 15 stars, right? Do you know how much attack it has?
No, I don't have that off the top of my head, and
I think at 15 stars with a good flame, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 500 attack or something.
I think the only note of the flame that I remember from looking at it was that the flame was like 10% boss damage, and then like I don't remember anything.
Yeah, I
was
think
really
that one will be
negligible.
worth moving into and flaming, especially if you're also going to get the glove and like get the 2 set bonus. Maybe not before that. But like once you get the glove, I would probably go for the 2 set bonus, and then I'm pretty sure it'll be an upgrade, and then you can retire this one.
All right, cool, yeah.
Yeah, the more pieces you change, the better it'll be, right? The set bonus one, because yeah, in the past you would have not switched because of how big the 5 set bonus was for Abzo, because then you would lose the 30% boss as well, right? But now it's only the 10% boss, and it's not as top heavy anymore. So as soon as you switch like 2 pieces for 2 pieces, it'll probably be an upgrade. But it'll help you keep the set bonus and not having to buy the item, so that you can get to Hard Loosen and Hard Will that way, and then hopefully get a weapon box to drop there, so you don't have to purchase it. And then you can upgrade the new one and work on the potential get attack, and then that will be a straight upgrade without needing to spend a lot of time. Yeah, because it's 24 droplets, right? Not droplets, 24 boss droplets to make the weapon, which is, just so much time.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, other than that, it's just a matter of like doing the right dailies and weeklies whenever you can to get backups. And then the next big event is probably going to be finishing the top and the Katara, both at 21 if you didn't get them here. And then and then probably work on that, like the transposed pendant, right, as your second pendant. What else? Those potentials that we worked on, but you're going to be mainly just focusing on getting into Arcana, so into Arcane Gear, I mean. So just saving up a whole lot of money for that and saving up backups, and then if you get an Arcane Gear, you switch into that. If you don't have enough for an Arcane Gear yet, you try to go for like the fodder up, right? So it'll probably be like the superior pieces where you get the level 150 pieces, 140 pieces, a lot of those, and then just try to YOLO them up to 21. And if it works, you transfer hammer them over, and then you have 20-star superior, and then you decide stay at 20 or go to 21, and then whatever you decide to do, hopefully that works, and then you redo the pot after the transfer, basically.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
That's why I wouldn't touch that pots now. They're in a good situation. Yeah, because you're going to transfer over, right? So their potential is going to be redone, so you might as well just leave it where they're at now and focus on the other pieces where it's more a direct upgrade.
Do you... Because I don't want to take up more time because we were already over,
we're over.
I think, like 15 minutes ago or half an hour ago. Do you have, like, resources for, like, Magnificent Souls or, like... like, what rings I should exactly be like going for at this point, because I was confused ever since the like slime ring came into play, and I haven't touched Oz at all. So like like was it Ring of Restraint 4 or something, or whatever it's called? Like,
Roar 4 and so Roar 3 and 4 and Weapon Jump 3 and 4, Weapon Jump Luck 3 and 4. Those are like basically the 4 rings that you might be want to look for. If you get one of those, it'll just replace whatever is your weakest damaging ring. All of the rings now that you have, so sending the reinforced early is typically not advised because you're dipping into your Gollux coin repository, right? And you want to keep those for backups in case you're doing the 20 to 21 and it booms there and you need to get a backup. Plus, if you want to go into the slime ring, you'll need an extra superior ring because you probably want to tap like Con of Treasure or Reinforced. Sorry, not Reinforced. Con of Treasure or Meister into the superior and then tap the superior again and then transfer that into the slime ring. I don't think it's a good idea to, when you get a slime ring, to like get it to 2.5 line or to 3 line potential into 17 star, because then you're fucked on that and it might be rare and you might not get one for a while. I think it's a better idea to just wait until you're in the situation of making 20 and 20 star or 21 star rings that we talked about before, right? After those steps, those initial steps, and then basically then start capitalizing on the slime ring, and then you'll most likely, hopefully, end up with like 20 or 21 superior, 20 or 21 probably Meister and Con of Treasure, and then hopefully a slime ring. And then once you have that, then you have like the go ahead to kind of like YOLO on the other rings that you have. And then if they succeed, then you can swap them in, and if they don't succeed, then it's whatever, because you don't lose out on anything. Or they can be drop or meso rings for a while, you know, until you have so many Gollux coins and all the other superiors are 21 that you're like, okay, now I can dedicate my my rings to this. But then the upgrade would have to be like replacing a 21 Meister with like a 22 Reinforced or something like that.
True.
So yeah, that's miles down the line.
Yeah.
For souls, I have exclamation mark souls. It's kind of like a combination of souls and on dailies, because I will have, who are these people? On dailies, I also made a note of like which souls drop and which tier of souls drop. So you can kind of see like which ones are valuable to scale up on, so you can get a lot of soul shards, so that when the event comes around, you can try to get some magnificence, right? So the main ones to scale up on is normal Queen and Vellum and normal Magnus, because those are dailies that drop, those are the only 3 dailies that drop double S tier souls. So those would be valuable if you have time during the dailies. If you can do that on a few characters, you'll end up with a whole lot of souls every event. And then the details of the souls are under here, under exclamation mark souls, like you can see the tiers. So you can see that double S tier again, right? And you see which ones those are. And then if you click on them, you can see what kind of stats you get if it's a normal one, which we don't care about. And then if it's a magnificent, you can see the stats here. So if you roll magnificent soul, the great thing is that they are not time limited and they're transferable, right? So you can scale up on other characters and then transfer the souls over. And then when you're on a really good weapon, like on a really good Abzo or a temporary arcane or a final arcane or a Genesis, that's the weapons I would consider putting Magnificent Soul on. And then these are the possible outcomes. So yeah, I would say 3% attack is probably the most, or magic attack, I guess, depending on your class, is the most desirable. As you know, for you, 5% Ulset is not the worst, right? Because you do scale nicely off of that. Usually critical rate is pretty good because of the comparative advantage on your Legion grid. And then, because a lot of people like to get the boss and think that critical rate is pretty bad. But, you know, it'll allow you to get your hyperstats a little bit lower and to take out of your Legion grid. And you know from Legion grid, it's 1-to-1, right? So you're getting 12 versus 7, basically. So I think critical rate is not to be underestimated. And then, 7 IED is a pretty small line of IED, and your IED high. So, a lot of these other ones are not very good. HP, all skill levels are garbage. But these are your possible options,
Okay, so does the weapon that I have need to have the same soul as the Magnificent Soul for this to happen, or is it just like or does it treat it like as just like a new fresh soul that I'm putting on there, but it's just like magnificent here?
So you make your weapon into a soul weapon, which means that it can gather energy, which means it can get some weapon and magic attack as the energy charges. That's one thing. And then the other thing is that when you have a soul weapon, you're allowed to put a soul into it. So the soul will have like a base stat, which is this one you see, and then typically also have a skill. But a lot of times we don't use the skill because it's either an attack that's really, really weak, a buff that's only good in like 1 or 2 situations in the entire game, or it's a summon that is so weak that you either cast it or it tries to cast you, but it doesn't really help much at all. The only summon we care about is normal Lucid because it's a stationary summon. And you can put it somewhere in the map and have like basically an extra summon clearing mobs for you out of like off screen, so that can help you with your raids. But for all of the other ones, we really just care about the base stats, and we want those magnificents for the high base stats, so that because even when you die and you lose the soul energy, so you lose that weapon attack, you keep that base stat of the soul. That's like always imprinted. So whatever specific soul you have on, that's gonna be the soul that is applying to your weapon, and that's the buff you're gonna get.
Okay, right. Okay, so then I would just be taking the soul. If I were to be putting it on the weapon I am now, I'd just be taking the soul out or putting like this new soul in, or because I have like 3 magnificent souls just sitting in my bag. I just didn't know what I was gonna do with them.
Yeah, I guess you can use them on your temporary or your fake arcane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's most likely going to be a Magnus, a Queen, or a Vellum early on, right? Because that's just where you get the most magnificent souls, because it's the most accessible for soul shards.
I think it was like 1 Queen and 2 Zakums or something that I got from Magnificent. When the last Magnificent thing happened. I don't know.
Yeah, so Zakum is was a rank C, right? So for the because he's a lower rank, his souls will also be bad. So like a Magnificent can only give you like flat weapon and magic attack. All stat 6 critical rate is probably like the best thing that you can get from that.
Alright.
So these are typically nice to use on like side characters, maybe boss mules, maybe temporary characters, just to give them a little bit extra. But if you're going for a more permanent weapon on a higher level character, I would always do double S. Just so you can get the percentage attack chance. Otherwise, it's all of your outs are just garbage at that point. Because you have RNG on the shards, then you have RNG like only 1% or 5% during Magnificent Soul event to even make a Magnificent, and then you have RNG on which line you get. So it's already so many layers of shit to go through that I would only get the best of the best and just disregard the other ones.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. Yeah, thank you. That's good.
Yep.
Good point.
No problem. Okay, you're probably about to pass out now, right?
This is keeping me up. I now know the steps that I need to take, and I see the path now. I just need to, one foot in front of the other. This is this is really good stuff for me, because you're the guy that everybody points to find out what their next steps are, and I didn't want to try to read through everything, so I just decided to have you tell me, and I'm glad I had. Because it's a lot more clear.
Yeah, I have it all in my head, so I can kind of parse out based on your personal situation which things would apply more and which ones are a little bit fluff.
Yeah, definitely. It's super helpful. Just like I don't have to scummage through all your different resources, which I mean are good. It's just there's a lot, so.
Yeah, there is a lot for sure.
Yeah, that's all super helpful.
Okay. Yeah. Well then, I guess I wish you good luck and a good night's sleep.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate it.
Is it like 8 a.m. for you, or?
For your time. Yeah, it's like 8 a.m. and I'm like
beautiful.
I've been up like all night and all this stuff. I'm just like, yeah. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Fumes are running, but after this, I'll definitely be hitting that bed hard. But yeah, I definitely appreciate you doing this, nicking the time out. It's really nice to have somebody that's so knowledgeable be able to do this for people. It's very
no worries. I'll upload to YouTube so you can listen to it back tomorrow and realize the things that you were talking about.
Yes.
So you can have it because some of the things might escape your mind. Long session.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Late at night.
I have some things written down, but maybe I might have missed something to.
Yeah, exactly. You can just double check. Yeah.
Yeah, this will. Oh man, this.
Hopefully the game will be up by the time you're up, so you can just.
Oh yeah,
keep
hopefully.
Going. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it would have to be extended pretty far.
Not that long.
Yeah.
Oof. Man.
But yeah, I wish you good luck on everything. Hopefully the top and the Katara gets transposed quickly. Hopefully, and then you can capitalize on the Shining Star Force and then move on from there.
Oh yeah. Fingers crossed for that.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed for
exactly. All right. Well, good luck on everything. And I'll see you around the chat.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good rest of your stream.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Peace. All right, cool. So, if you guys enjoyed that session and your totem is now done, good job. A little bit long session, but we got through everything. And if you would like one of these sessions, make sure that you check the description of the video, or if you want to win a free session, a chance to win, leave a comment with your Discord name and that you would like to win in the YouTube comments, and I'll pick 2 winners at the end of every month that get a free session with me like this. So if you're interested, make sure you do that. If you need any of the resources that we went over, make sure you check the Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Scardor, and use the commands in the chat. ! commands will bring all of them up. I have about 200 of them. There is some of them are like in the command grid here that have direct links, and some of them will have to use in the chat because they give you like a text form, and I'm not going to paste all of that in here. But if you need any of that stuff, that's all freely available in the Twitch chat. And other than that, I will see you guys on stream or on the next video, I guess. So thanks for watching, and see you then.